Hello everybody and welcome back to what is another deck test leading up to the challenge on Saturday. The previous one was with the Mardu Stoneblade, and if you haven't seen that video before, I quite recommend it. The last three games in particular were very good and showcased a lot of the potential ways the deck can pivot and different axes it can operate on. Speaking of different axes of operation, here is a deck that I very much love and had a lot of experience and success with in the past and recently as well, which I'll get into in a moment, which is Blue-Red Living End. It's as it says on the tin and the deck name, it is an is it base blue Living End deck. You can utilizing Electro Dominance and As Foretold to cast the free spells of Crashing Footfalls, Living End. It plays a number of cyclers: Curator of Mysteries, Street Raven, Windcaller Aven, Strapped with Riverwinder, to fill up the graveyard, churn through your deck in order to find what is essentially 2-card combos. The deck protects itself with 10 points of interaction, which would be 2 Brazen Borrower to bounce problematic permanents or maybe some hate pieces, 8 counter spells with a playset of Remand and Force of Negation. A card that they're currently testing out is Salundi Vision. The basic premise of this, it's 2 in a blue, instant speed. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal an instant or sorcery card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So this is just in games where we're struggling to find maybe something like we know they've got a counter spell, we want to get a Force of Negation, but predominantly it's going to be used to find Living End or Crashing Footfalls. It does have the other mode of being able to play land, which means we can go down to 18. Another card that we're testing out, I'm not been too happy with it so far, is River Glide Pathway and Lava Glide Pathway. The thinking behind this is that there's a lot of burn, prowess, Hammertime, and just a load of aggressive decks all over the meta, and being able to Electro Dominance early without having to take damage, and that's the working theory anyway. However, how it goes, we'll see, but I'm not sold on the card so far. I would much prefer this was either another Fiery Islet or another Scalding Tarn or Steam Vents. The sideboard, I mean, well, before I get to the sideboard, the main is I'm pretty happy with, apart from the Salundi Vision, which I think could either be another Street Wraith or another Brazen Borrower, or potentially even just a land. But I'm happy to test it out. So far I've run 2 leaves with the deck and I haven't seen it once, so the nature of variance has stopped me from giving you an informed opinion on that one. On to the sideboard. So, as always with unsolved metas, new metas and what feels like a new format, sort of trying to hedge against a lot of different things. The typical stuff is Tormod's Crypt is the chosen piece of graveyard hate for the deck. It's free. It's free to cast, and we can also instant speed cast it off Electro Dominance for 0 to cheese them out, particularly against Dredge. That could be quite a good little trick to have up your sleeve. The Abrades, we want, because we're a Chalice deck, we want ways to remove artifacts and deal with creatures at 2 CMC, because invariably we're bringing both of these in at the same time. I went against a lot of decks, in particular D&T is a fine example, where we quite like Chalice on 1, but we'd also very much need the interaction on 2 before an Anger of the Gods comes down. The 5 slots that I'd say are the most flexible are these ones here. Negate is sort of like a catch-all, and it's your best catch-all when you're not really sure what to play. I'm starting to think that maybe this should be 2 copies of Dispel or Mystic Dispute, but for the most part the card has performed reasonably well and it's a classic. Dragon's Claw, I'm not sold on. Sometimes feels like if you're on the draw, it comes down a bit too slow, it's a bit late, and isn't as impactful as you would like. Against Burn in particular, Prowess, I think I can still do quite a lot of work, because we're, as opposed to with Burn, we're maybe hard countering a lot of their stuff, and if we remand, then very little they're just casting at the same turn anyway. But against things like Prowess and Black-Red Prowess, using the remands and Force of Negations, sorry, the remands over the Force of Negations to maybe like tempo them out has more impact, because they're a lot, they don't churn through their deck as quick, they're a lot more precise with their use of mana, and Dragon's Claw usually helps out in that matchup a bit better. Plus, it's very effective at killing Scourge if you manage to maintain plus 20 life. As always, I was testing the deck before I did the video, and I decided to take it through a league, which is why I see we just jump over to here. See, we'll enter with this. Yeah, I trophied with the league yesterday, went 5-0, played against Burn twice, Blue-Red Prowess, once Hammertime, and a Mardu mid-range deck. Went overall 10-2 in that league, dropping 2 games, once against Burn and once against Blue-Red Prowess. That being said, I'll see you for match 1. Okay, with the deck tech out of the way, I'll see you all for match 1. Okay, welcome back to the first game. We're against Mario Gomez. I'm going to say good luck, have fun. We've got an interesting hand here. We've got two lands, perfect number. We've got both Living End and Crashing Footfalls, 2 cyclers and a Force Negation. Just need to find an Asphaltold or an Electro Dominance. Hopefully avoid discard. We've got the interaction to protect ourselves in case of maybe an early Thoughtseize, but for the most part, seems like a pretty solid hand. This is kind of one where we're looking to avoid with this hand, probably Blue-Red Prowess. It doesn't quite line up well without having the Asphaltold or the Electro Dominance in hand. These two could be dead, and we'll soon find out. Arid Mesa just made me think Burn, but we shall see. I do like to prioritise the Striped River Winders as being at 7 CMC. They are harder to cast. The Curator being at 4 man, it invariably will end up casting that quite quite often. And as for told, casting your creatures in very long and grindy games comes up far more often than any Blue-Red Living End pilot will ever admit. So the mace being cracked here by our opponent. Let's see what we're playing against. Godless Shrine. Okay, shocking that in makes me think a Shadow variant. Perhaps Mardu Shadow. But to avoid playing into a Scourge, I'm going to hold off on cracking this Scalding Tarn. Yeah, it's aggressive life loss. It doesn't look like a Shadow variant. Okay, not what I thought we were going to see. So I don't want to draw another land here, so I'm going to crack first. Play Steam Vents tap now, because I didn't hold control down properly, so luckily we drew exactly what we needed. The opponent doesn't have a spell in hand currently, so I feel quite happy saving this Electro Dominance just to see what they do. If they go for a discard spell, then I'll do it in response. I won't waste a Force Negation or a Remand on an Inquisition when we've got what we have in hand. Against the Mardu colour pairing, I think Striped River Winder, short of a Liliana, is going to do quite a lot of work. But because it's got another creature to come down with it, I feel quite comfortable that it'll be able to do a lot of work against their deck. Oh, this is perfect. So what we're going to do is wait for the Scholar to hit the battlefield, and in response we're going to Electro Dominance ourselves, play around any... Hold on, so we've got 4, 9... I'm going to do it to them, so that makes either of our creatures... So as long as we get one connecting shot, one connection or one hit, then either of the creatures will be lethal if one of them gets removed. So play the Living End, F6. So yeah, they get to exile one of our spells, but we've got the double Footfalls. If they take Remand or Force Negation, then we'll be able to sit back on the other. Feeling pretty happy about this. This really showcases the strength of the deck. As you can see, we'll be able to sit back on little points of interaction, disrupt our opponent, and potentially combo quite quickly if we need to, or we can maybe play a slower game, but for the most part, looking pretty good here. I'm not bothered about a Death Shadow. Play out the mountain, they know about our entire hand now. We've got hard cast Force Negation, just in case there's any Team of Battle Rage or anything like that. I usually don't want to chip the Death Shadow deck down too low, but in this instance they would have to have exactly Team of Battle Rage and... okay. If they've got it, they've got it. Let the opponent take our Force Negation. I'm going to put that on top in case they play something to block all our creatures. So they had the TBR, which is a shame, but I feel like we had to play into it against their deck. The chalices definitely come in. Not too interested. I think it's going to be too quick for Salundi Vision and the remans. I do like the Force Negations, particularly on the play, and Brazen Borrower. Not sure how relevant that's going to be. I'll take a remand. Yeah, okay. One remand, one borrow, one Salundi Vision for the 3 chalices. Stops their discard, stops their shadows, stops any Arcanist nonsense because they're playing Dreadful Arcanist and they're going to have a critical mass of 1-drops, so yeah, quite like that. We'll take the play. Oh, it's a risky one on the play. I'm going to keep it, hope that we can get a land. We've got 2 looks at it. Got a cycle off probably a Riverwinder, and then obviously our draw step. It's a risky keep, but I think the upside of Chalice of the Void is worth it. Opponent's targeting himself, so probably kept a low land hand, looking to see whether they want to draw what they've got on top before they shock and fetch. Hopefully they decide they want it. Nope. So if they play a Inquisitional Thoughtseize, I'll probably cycle in response to try and find a Force Negation. Luckily we don't have to make that decision. Fetch shock to 17. Cycle the Riverwinder again. To find a Footfalls. Okay, I'm not punished, so play a Chalice on 1 and say go to our opponent. Okay, Arid Mesa for our opponent here. So now off Inquisition, Thoughtseize. They may have brought in a Braids or some kind of removal for a Chalice, but for the most part we'll see. Tide Hollow. They'll be very disappointed when they see our hand. Realise it doesn't really do a lot at this point. I think they've probably got to take the Curator. Yeah, that's the correct pick by our opponent. Remand coming a little bit late, but okay, 3 lands for our opponent. Okay, no thank you. That 3rd land's good. Means we one step closer, means we can cast As Foretold. Be fantastic off the top. I'll play out the Scalding Tarn. Now, just fetch a Steam Vents on the end step. For the most part, looks like we're going to see the Captain come down again, get a Death Shadow. Yep, this is the one that can sacrifice to stop, yeah, non-creature spells. Yeah, as expected, the opponent gets a Death Shadow coming down, but they forgot about the Chalice. Very easily done. If we were playing in paper, it'd be inclined to think the opponent might have been doing a Chalice check, but can't get away with that on Modo, can't miss your triggers. So now we've got what I like to consider all the time in the world. They can't play, if they play any Graveyard Hate, or if they go to sack the Ranger Captain, then we could do it in response, but so I'm going to draw first. Now they could sack it in response here. Which would stop us from playing one of our spells. Yep, they do. Okay, so we're going to say no. Go down to 10. Sure, what's 5 mana from a... Oh, hard cast Street Wraith, right, okay. Been a long time since I've seen that. So I'm going to cycle the Even, give the Street Wraith flying. Wow, and draw. So I've got 2 3 of a kinds, 2 turn clock from our opponent, 1 draw step. TBR is not lethal here. Can't play a bolt if they've got one. So but this is the definition of bad variance. We kept a bit of a suspect hand, but the ideal would be as foretold here, so we can just go repeatedly footfalls. Okay. Not sure why opponent played the Death Shadow into the Chalice again, it's probably something I'm missing. Big draw step. Oh, beautiful. So, I know why they're doing it. They're doing it to play around us casting a Living End. So then they would get back their shadows and everything. So what we're going to do instead is play the Footfalls and refuse to cast Living End. So we just put 8 power repeatedly for the next 2 turns on the battlefield. Okay. Opponent's going to have another removal spell. It'll have to be another Terminate or Liliana of the Veil if they're playing it. Okay, perfect. I'm not going to attack yet. I'll wait one more turn just to make sure that we've got enough power to force a way through and force the blocks. So I'm going to cycle just in case we find... So I'll give this one flying. Just in case we find another remand. Riverwinder. Yeah. Happy to let them take that. So I'll take the footfalls. Yep. If we draw a land here, then we can Electro Dominance for 2, target the Tidehallow Scholar, get back the footfalls, and then play again. We can now Electro Dominance off the As Foretold. We can only do it for 0. It's a neat little interaction that you'll sometimes see. Just trying to get another land. Yep, we get it. So we're still holding the ground at the moment. There's no point attacking. Our opponent's found another Ranger Captain. Okay. Hex Parasite. Okay, so it looks like they're going to try and remove the counter stuff as foretold. We living end here. Get back. 5 versus their 3-4, 4-4, 4-4, 3-3. We would have 1, 2, 3 flying. Okay. I think it's worth going for now. So if we attack, actually 4, 8, 12, they don't have to make any blocks. They'll probably block as much as possible, not with the Tidehallow. Opponent just doing lag checks. We are in the tank a little bit. Could have terminate. We haven't got any way to. I think it's worth going for now. We do get the footfalls back as well, and the Curator of Mysteries, which is something to bear in mind. Okay, opponent's doing that to get back the Ranger Captain. We get 2 ETBs from the Ranger Captain. Tidehallow we get back, so it looks like 4, 8, 12 in the air. We have to get a Death Shadow. Okay, the last one, get that back. We're going to keep the Curator in hand. We're not going to cycle it because we can play it. Got a hard cast force now. So 8, if they have removal, which assuming they do, can't be a path. If they fetch, then they do go to 8, which means these are lethal. Got a force negation hard cast in case they've got any shenanigans, but looks like that was enough. Okay, they can be aware of the chalice now, but I don't think we can really play around it. I think it's worth keeping the chalice in and the playset of force negation just to make sure that we can protect it. I think that's worth it, and with that I'm going to run it back. Game 3, we've got a pretty solid hand, assuming that we can dodge a Thoughtseizes or an Inquisition taking our Electro Dominance. 8 power, turn 2. Could be enough. But it's got some... Yeah, you know what? The opponent's mulliganing, I'm going to keep this. It's a very... Make no mistake, this is a risky hand. But... could be worth it. And I like to think it is. I suppose otherwise I would have kept it, but... particularly with the draw of the Riverwinder, I feel vindicated in this decision. Yeah, opponent trying to be as aggressive as possible, going down to, well, obviously to 12 to get their Shadow online. Okay, not quite. Assuming the Thoughtseize. Nope. Tide Hollow. Yeah. So I'll let them take the Electro Dominance. We'll cycle on end step, try and find a Brazen Borrower, find another Electro Dominance, as foretold. In this situation, the correct take is the Electro Dominance. It's our only way that we can cast these 3 spells. If they've got a removal heavy hand, I could see them maybe taking one of the cyclers, but I can't see a world where it's not correct just to take it as they did. Okay, we've got Spire Bluff. Hold up remand, cycle if it's not relevant, but I think the best thing here will be if we're able to tag a Ranger Captain, just tempo them out a little bit. Okay, got the 3rd land, so Ranger Captain's live. The only lower hardcast in the Curator might be on the cards. Yeah, this is a Ranger Captain, it looks like. So we'll send that back to hand, draw a card. Yeah, looks like Curator hardcast is on the cards. Gonna go to 16 just to see if we can get an Electro Dominance or an As Foretold off the top. That's not a bad draw as things go. So we'll play that on 1, stop any future shadows. Play Misty. Get Ace. And we'll get a Steam Vents on the end step. Hardcast a Curator and see if that's going to be enough. Shuts down their Paths, Veil Pushes, Bolts, Inquisitions, Death Shadows, Thoughtseizes, Cling to Dust if they've got it. Probably Surgical as their Graveyard Hate. Relics if they're running it, probably not, but it's a lot of things that it stops from the Death Shadow decks. So probably going to see the Ranger Captain come down now. Okay. Happy to see that. So they're playing Death Shadow. Okay, so that is 8. So I'm still going to fetch the Steam Vents, tap to play the Curator. If we draw As Foretold or Electro Dominance, we can still Curator to cycle first before Living End, before casting Living End. We'll go to 11. So that'll put the Death Shadow. Yeah, TBL will be lethal anyway, so. Hopefully no push or path, no terminate, but we know that one of their cards in hand is a Ranger Captain. If they attack, I am forced to block the Death Shadow, and that cycle does infer that they are looking for a TBR or they've got one in hand. And I've been able to take the extra 3 damage. The Death Shadow would be lethal if we didn't block it, so we are forced to do that. fact the opponent's in the tank now means they probably don't have TBR in hand, or if they're considering playing the Ranger Captain just to get this off the table, then swing in next turn. Hold up Ranger Captain activation on our draw step. But either way, we're going to be taking 2 here, blocking the Death Shadow, hoping for no TBR. They know about these 3 cards. Okay. Yeah, so as expected, here's the Ranger Captain. Getting another Death Shadow. Saying, have we got it? The answer is no. The answer is definitively no. As foretold, will be a bad draw now. Doesn't matter what we do, they will. And that is game. So GG's to our opponent. It's a very winnable matchup, but game 1 was just not where we want to be. So I'll see you back for game 2. So back for match 2. Against Giacomo. So good luck, have fun, and we'll mulligan to 6. It's a bad hand. So here, I mean, you can't ask for much more. Electro Dominance, as foretold in hand, Crashing Footfalls. I'm going to send back a Curator. So we've got the Footfalls Dominance combo. Hopefully cycle into lands as opposed to Living End. But all in all, it's pretty solid. Spire Bluff Canal and go. So Verdant Catacombs from our opponent. I'm thinking instantly Rock, Jund, the usual suspects. Ones that shouldn't have too many problems dealing with a As Foretold. Okay, Stomping Ground, could be Ponza, could still be Jund. Yep, it is Jund indeed. So it's probably a Ren and 6, that's fine with me. Bit of an interesting matchup. The hands that they keep, if they've got a lot of discard, then that can be an issue. But for the most part, we're going to hopefully here tag their Ren, target ourselves, cast the Footfall. We're going to draw a land. Nope, not quite. Get Ren off the table, hit him for 4, hold up a Brazen Borrower. Shame we didn't draw the 3rd land, but not the end of the world. That's the Liliana, okay. We'll sack one of the Rhinos. I'm not going to bounce Liliana. Perfect. So I'll go as foretold. We're going to hit them for 4. Because we're not bothered about Liliana, we'll just pitch the as foretold. Play another Rhino. Put lethal on board and ask if our opponent can deal with it. Yep, we're going to ditch another as foretold. The second one's usually redundant. They're going to pitch an Inquisition. Yep, a little bit late for that. I'm assuming they've got removal based upon that sequence. Bloodbraid Elf. Okay. Lightning Bolt. No good here. So now we can Brazen Borrower the Bloodbraid Elf. Swing in for 12. Okay, good enough. Took down game 1. Then the mid-range matchups. Not interested in the chalices. Against Jund. Doesn't kill the Goyfs. It's pretty good against Bob, Skoos. But then again, we are playing 4 main deck Wraths in that instance. Do quite like Tormod's Crypts. If we're forced to start cycling aggressively, they are going to have Nihil Spell Bomb, which some versions of the deck do play main deck as well. So I'm just going down a Sullen Vision for a negate, a Remand for a negate, and 1 Tormods over a Street Wraith. Just keep it simple. Quite like this. Got the Tormod's Crypt in hand, Footfalls, 2 Cyclers, 2 lands. Okay, so they're probably going to take the Footfalls. But depending on what their hand is, I could see justification for a Remand. Interesting, so they're probably on Croxer, if that's the case. I pop out the graveyards just to make things a little bit clearer. I'm going to cycle first just for maximum information. And I think I do want to pitch. I'll pitch this Brazen Borrower to counter Ren. Slows them down. So I play the Tarn. Cycle the Curator if we don't have to remand. Hopefully they just kept a landlight hand relying on Ren. Okay, in the interest of just a tempo swing, I will remand this. Perfect, so we've got 3 looks at Asphaltold, Electro Dominance. The Collective Brutality is dead in hand. If they're Liliana, I'll probably pitch one of these. So I'm going to cycle the Riverwinder, which is the hardest to cast. It's also most effective against their strategy. So now we'll make them make a decision. And we'll hold as much information as we can. Yeah. So cycle now. Electro Dominance or Asphaltold as always. Be fantastic draws off the top. Means we get to Living End. Asphaltold particularly would then mean we'd get to Living End and then Footfalls. But we'll see. Okay, so we'll pitch the Footfalls that they think they know about. Not a great draw, but it means we're in to hard casting Curators if we find more. We've only got 1 left in the deck, but looks like the Ren counter was quite effective. Perfect. I'm going to hold priority. Not that they'll get a chance to respond, but it's just good habit. That's absolutely fine. get a red source there, but we also get to avoid taking 3. I'm gonna top the Brazen Bar. Just in case they play Crocs the next turn out in their graveyard, if they can find a black source, could be a bit of a pain. Not sure what our opponent's thinking about here. Also, don't have to worry too much about any instant speed removal on the Riverwinder. Anything like if they play a Goyf, we can bounce that attack through pretty nicely. They can't Goyf and Crocs the next turn. We'll be swinging for 17. Okay. I'm going to say yes there, even though I topped. Okay, all good comebacks. Start with a Bloodbraid Elf. No illegal targets here. Start digging a little bit. Not interested in a land. Okay, an opponent has had enough, so it would have been land, and so would have got an Avon. Another look, so bottom that. Probably would have bottomed that, dropped that, cracked it. So we'll be getting for 8. Yeah, so not quite lethal, but I will catch you in a minute for match number 3. Welcome back for match 3. We're on the play against Curryvore, which is a fantastic name, if I do say so. Quite like this if they're a Yorion deck, so probably playing a bit of a slower list. Reman's going to be quite useful. I'm happy to keep this 2 combo enablers. You can always cycle for a Street Wraith if you need a Force Negation, but in the slower meta I can certainly see... Okay. Oh, it's one of the new snow doors. Okie doke. So Strike Riverwinder, coming a turn too late. Would have been nice to cycle that on the end step of the first turn, but can't have everything. Stoneforge Mystic. Okay, I'm going to cycle the Street Wraith. Yeah, I'm going to remand that. Just the tempo hit. Same again, if our opponent plays the Stoneforge, I'll cycle a Riverwinder. Try and see if I can find a... Them again. Okay. Moving in here would be quite nice, but we'll do the same again. Just slow the play down. Let's go get to cycle both of the Wingcaller Ravens. I'm going to play around Force of Negation. I'm going to let them play the Stoneforge Mystic. Okay. See what they get. Let's go with the Batterskull. Okay. Gonna go for the bait with the Electro Dominance. Plays around Force Negation as much as possible. Gonna hold control here. Put it onto the stack. Cycle a Wind Caller in response. Cycle another one. Just gonna always rhinos now. Perfect. So that resolves, looks like. 3, 6, 10, 19. Not quite lethal, but that fetch land, if they want to play that Battle they've got in hand, is going to take them down to 19. I'm not going to... Okay. Spoke too soon, I think. So, opponent's going to 19. Is this going to be a... What's the Flash Snow Creature? Ice Fan Quartal. Okay, so... We'll let that resolve. Hold control. Petty Theft the Quartal. And that should be exact. Easy as that sometimes. Okay. So I do want the Abrades in this matchup. The sort of Fire Ice and Batskulls, they're probably going to be a pain. Rather than not have to deal with those constantly. Even though the street race were good there. I'm probably going to bring in Braid for Street Wraith. It has the potential to be very grindy. So I do want the Salundi, but is that just better than a Braid? The Brazen Borrower has a lot of stock in this list, even if it's just bouncing germ tokens and things like that. Remand, as you saw there, was excellent, particularly against their clunkier draws and instant speed tricks, so I think I'm going to just keep it simple. It's starting to become a bit of a catchphrase. With 2 Abrades for 2 Street Wraiths, I might look to bring in negates depending on how controlling they are in game 2. If they feel like they're the control deck, they've probably got the potential to do a lot more than we have. So we'll go into game 2. Opponent is rightly choosing to play first. They're not a discard deck. So they're mulling to 6. I'm going to keep this. We can go turn 2, Living End or Crushing Footfalls. They're mulling quite aggressively. Maybe Force Negation, Mystic Dispute. The other advantage of this this combo is Crushing Footfalls, Living End and Electro Dominance all avoid Mystical Dispute. As for Told doesn't, but for the most part, even though we are almost completely mono blue, a lot of our key pieces and key combo pieces aren't blue. So before Tibalt's Trickery and all that, like when it was Uro decks running around everywhere, it was a reason that the blue-red Living End lists were particularly good, because the Uro decks had up to playsets of Mystical Disputes in the sideboard and they just weren't that good. Hit our interaction, but for the most part it didn't touch the combo. So if they held up 1 mana and we needed to go for an early Footfalls, they couldn't do a lot about it. Oh, our opponent going to 4. Really don't like to see that. You prefer to have actual games, but sometimes, you know, if an opponent's mulling to 5, 4, 3, unless they're Tron, you sometimes end up with a bit of a lopsided interaction in game. And I know as a player I'd rather not have that. I'd rather have, you know, a nice game where everyone gets to play their deck and gets to play Magic. The one thing to say with this deck, in paper it can be quite expensive. Playing Chalice of the Voids, Force of Negation, even Living End nowadays is going up to sort of like £10–15 per card. I'm not sure, I think that's what, about $20. about 17 euros. But Chalice of the Void and Force Negation, Living End, they're expensive cards. Steam Vents and the Scalding Tarns as well. But luckily with Magic Online, I think the deck is about, from memory, about 500 ticks, which is quite a lot, but the Force Negations are the bulk of that, even with the printing of, the flashback Modern Horizons draft that's currently going on at the moment. The price have gone down to 65 ticks per from 100, but that's still a lot of money to invest. And if you're not like myself with a trader's account through Card Hoarder, then it can be hard to justify on a lot of occasions. Looks like our opponent's going to carry on holding up mana. I think we'll just, there's no rush at the moment, keep sculpting our hand, cycling, setting ourselves up to be as efficient as possible, maybe get another Electro-Dominance, another Asphaltold, more Cyclers. Even the ability to hold up Remand, that's nice. Not sure what instant speed. Ah, it's just Vendilion Click. Yeah. We'll let them put the Electro-Dominance on the bottom. It's a shame, but not too fussed. Not too fussed, really. Particularly as we're drawing stuff like Street Wraiths. We'll give their click cycling. Sorry, cycling. We'll give their click flying again. So I'm going to Street Wraith now, just in case we draw. There we go. Draw Asphaltold. Doesn't play around Force Negation, but hopefully that'll be enough. We can play more Rhinos if we need to, but the opponent's seen enough. And that's match 3 down. Going 2-1, going for the 4-1, and I'll see you again for match number 4. Okay, welcome back for match number 4. Tell opponent good luck, have fun. We're against Vertix, who has chosen to take the play. On the draw, we've got Force Negation, as foretold. We've got some Rhinos, 2 Cyclers, a Remand. I mean, this is as good as a one-lander can really be. Gonna get 3. Yeah, we're gonna get 3 looks at a second land drop. And it looks like we are against Mono Red Prowess. I'd like to see. I was about to say a Spy Bluff now, look at that. Ask and you shall receive. I will, against Prowess, depending if they are mono red or red black, I may pitch this Force of Negation to, sorry, the Remand to the Force of Negation. And it looks like the opponent kept a one-lander. Light up the stage. It does give the impression that they are light on lands. Maybe they kept a greedy hand off the back of this light up the stage. I'm gonna get some more information, cycle, see what we get. Remand, okay, I feel quite safe pitching this one of the remands to this now. So another land gets us 8 power of Rhinos, which should be quite hard for a mono red deck to deal with. That's the that is nice art. I really like that. Really like that. That's from the new Secret Lair. So it looks like we're taking 2 damage. We're taking 3 off the Misty. Hopefully we'll find a land now. We can get Steam Vents, but if we don't, gonna get an island now. Try and conserve our life total as much as possible, particularly with the Street Wraith in hand. I think opponent's just reading the Windcaller Raven, which is completely understandable. It's not a commonly seen card. Although one of my friends does maintain that it's better than Team of Battle Rage, because you can play it in Shadow. I'm not too convinced about that, but here we are. So now we're going to hold up the ground. I feel comfortable going to 14 with Force Negation, with Remand, and we're about to put 8 power worth of rhinos on the battlefield. They find their second land drops, we get to see if they're mono red or if they are. Okay, so they're blue red, so they are. Is it Prowess? Yep, understandable. Getting in for one with the Sprite Dragon. Living end off the top would be fantastic, but double remand's even better. I was going to get in for 4 here. Hold back 1 rhino. It's the conservative line, but with double remand, I feel it's the appropriate thing to do. They could quite easily kill us from here. 2 bolts, you know. So 2 bolts would be 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. If we go to 4, that would be assuming that we countered them. So happy just to shore up the ground a little bit longer, cycle these remands if needed. Particularly like to tag a Stormwing entity. So it looks like the opponent is going for it. This is what I was worried about. This is why we held back the rhino. They're going face as well, which means they're probably trying to go all in now. Yep, let's send that back to hand. As foretold, not what we wanted to see, but I will trade a rhino for a soul score if they want to. It is a pretty good draw. So now we can hold up, remand off as foretold, force of negation, pitching, as foretold itself, and play the curator. So now I feel very comfortable swinging with both. Yeah, it forces a jump, that's fine. Rhinos do have trample. So if we see a Manamorphose, I will... Nope, never mind, opponent's seen enough. So that's going to sideboarding. I've got a lot of things to consider. I mean, most of these things, most of these could be considered. I really don't like the Street Wraith in the blue-red Prowess matchup. The Dragon's Claws, because we can disrupt them quite heavily at most points. I do prefer Dragon's Claw over Chalice. Let me say I don't like Sullen Vision here. I think a Braid, getting a bit of creature removal. Usually you want to try and avoid killing your opponent's creatures too much, see as a living end deck. However, in this instance, if they're getting back Monastery Swiftspears and Soulscar Mages, then, you know, I hope we will be outclassing them. 12, 14, 18 creatures is quite light, but Brazen Borrow on Stormwing is a hell of a tempo hit as well. I'd love the Force Negations. I was wondering, do I want the second Braid or not? I think I'm going to see how we get on without it. Taking a big sip of tea that was very kindly provided by my lovely girlfriend. So, this is the conversation I was having earlier at the start of the video about the pathway. Here, if this was a Steam Vents or a Spybluff Canal or even a Sacred Foundry, not Sacred Foundry, Scalding Tarn, then we'd have no problems knowing that we could Electro Dominance, cycle with both, and I'm going to keep it, but it's a lot more risky than it initially seems, and this is jeopardising our mana quite heavily. hopefully draw a Spire Bluff Canal off the top. Another force. Having double force, I do want to kill this as soon as possible. So I'm going to shock in the Steam Vents with the intention to kill the Soulscar Mage next turn if we don't draw something off this Riverwinder cycle. If we draw a Living End, then I won't. Or if we draw a Crashing Footfalls, it might do. But hopefully here they just go for the light up the stage. Nothing. Interesting. So we can fetch an island with Misty. I've only got one Cycler in hand. I know we could draw another one, but I'm going to play it as a red source for the Electro Dominance, should we need it. But the best one in the world, I'll attack for 1, I'll abrade it on end step, but it doesn't look like that's what's going to happen here. Another Soulscar. I do wonder what they've got in hand. Okay, if our opponent's doing nothing, then I'm going to cycle another Curator. We are punished. Again, we're going to hold up Hardcast Force, Force Pitching Force, Electro Dominance and 2 cycles, you know, and an Abrade. We can hold up everything here. They're quite slow. This is the turn where they could go off. And it looks like they are going to set up to do so. We're going to get an island preemptively. Whilst that's on the stack, if we have to abrade, then it just keeps things clean and easy. So we're going to 12 here, assuming no shenanigans. 2 cards in hand for our opponent. Lightning Bolt. Okay. I'm going to cycle a Riverwinder. Okay, so with that I'm going to force that. Pitching one of the forces. Force 6. Yeah, we'll let this go through. I value the cycle slightly higher. Again. So we have got again Force Pitching Windcaller Raven if we need it, Brazen Borrower for that Sprite Dragon, Abrade, probably losing a little bit of stock now. Okay, let's see that. Not a big fan of that. So we've got no choice, we're going to have to... I mean, Lava Dart would be the worst possible thing here. So, tempo here, I'm going to fog some damage and bounce that Sprite Dragon. Just take 3. So their hand is Sprite Dragon and 1 unknown. Okay, let's go for another cycle. Any of our combo cards, any of them will do right now. That'll do. That will do it. So now we can force, as told. We can hold up the Electro Dominance, hope they go all in. If not, we can tag the Soulscar Mages now. When they go to attacks, just take 3 again. But So they're going for the Spell Pierce. There's a lot of triggers. So we're going down to 2. And as we said, we're going to force pitching the As Foretold. Hopefully no second Spell Pierce. They're probably quite relieved it's not a living end. That would probably be the game, but what can you do? We're down to 2. Bolt, Lava Dart, pretty much their entire deck is lethal at this stage. We're not cracking that. Gonna hold up Flashing Brazen Borrower, block, Abrade if we have to. But we definitely can't attack here. I mean, pretty much everything kills us. Okay, Spire Bluff for our opponent. Hopefully they don't see the Brazen Borrower. They do. Probably should have attacked there, but I want to do this on their end instead. I don't want them to. Okay. I'm just playing as conservatively as possible. Don't force them to do anything. But if they've got a bolt, now is the time to do it. Now is the time to use it. Okay. That is 3-1. Opponents somehow bricking for a ludicrous amount of turns. I'll be back for the final match of the league. 3-1 going in for the 4-1. Oh, so we are back for match number 5. Taking the play, saying good luck, have fun to our opponent. Playing against Oskiya. Don't recognise the name. We've already cashed the league, so that's always good situation to be in, and this one's even better. It's a Lurrus deck. We're hoping it's going to be burn, not any of the red-black shadow variants. We've got to keep this. Hoping to draw a red source off this curator, but these aren't the kind of hands you can mulligan. You've just got to take the risk when you're playing this deck. And with that in mind as well, we are going to play the Fiery Islet, so we've got the potential for double red next turn. Not sure what impression this will give to our opponent, but hopefully one of confusion. So it is in fact Hammertime. Yeah, happy about all of that, no problem at all. Really bothered about the equipment, the Garder's Aid, things like that. Slim Division, not really keen on seeing that right now, but the Borrower is going to be huge. So, going Inkmoth Nexus for our opponent, Lurrus to hand, and attacking for 1, I'd imagine. Yep, no problem at all, opponent. Hopefully draw a land. No force, so we'll play Slundy Isle, go for As Foretold next turn, hold up Force Pitching Force, and Brazen Borrower. Haven't got anything to do with the Lurrus currently, our opponent, but Pure Steel Paladin, you got it. Yep, not interested in dealing with that. Our opponent being exceptionally well disciplined. Now we've got the Fiery Islet, we can instant speed the Electro Dominance. I don't see a need to do anything. We've only got a Curator in the graveyard. We'll just keep playing it slow, let the opponent play out their hand. If we could tag a Lurrus, that'd be particularly nice. Stoneforge, yep, you got it. Fetching a Colossus Hammer, I'd assume. Yep. Animating Inkmoth Nexus, even better. Let them draw. Okay. So, what I'm going to do here is bounce the Springleaf Drum, play Living End. That means that they'll have, if they want to play Lurrus, they can't use the drum. They won't have the drum. I think that's the correct thing to do. That or bouncing the hammer, then that would allow them to Lurrus. I think it's no, because that turns on Sigarda's Aid. They'll have a Paladin in the bin, which they'll be able to get with Lurrus. And that would allow them to draw cards. I'm going to put the Springleaf Drum back to hand. Take 2, which isn't fantastic, but this does get rid of the Inkmoth as well, which is huge. Oh, usually there's a bit of a bigger blowout, but can't have everything. I'm going to attack. Also going to cycle Street Wraith if we find some Rhinos, that'd be fantastic. I'm going to put that on top. And we play as foretold, take 1. And now we can start to set up our graveyards. So we're going to play Lurrus now, probably get the Ornithopter back. This allows us to start filling our graveyard. If we have to Living End again, then we'll be the one who's coming out ahead as opposed to our opponent who'll be able to get all of this out of the graveyard. Particularly the Lurrus now, getting the Ornithopter. Or the Giver, absolutely fine. We do get the Scribe beforehand, which is fantastic. I'm not interested in that. Okay, so now we've got Petty Theft on the any kind of combo, so if they try and play the Pure Steel Paladin, then so we can put them to 12. I'm going to preemptively cycle Windcaller now. I'm not interested in Remand. Natural Dominance for 1, not great here, but we can Brazen Borrower if they threaten to kill us, but holding up Petty Theft is not the best thing we can do here. Another Pure Steel Paladins. This means that they can start to equip things again at instant speed, so they've got 3 artifacts. It's not a great spot to be in, but they're going to draw another card. We're going to take 3, they're going to go up to 15. Hopefully they just get another Paladin out, no. Okay, search for another equipment. Shadow Spear. Okay, it's not a good situation to be in at the moment, but okay. A little bit late on that one. So yeah, I think we'll just attack. Pull up to 10. Crack the 2 fiery islets. Gotta thin our deck as much as possible. Nope, that is the game. Going against their deck, we want the chalices, the abrades. Don't want that, don't want that. Not a big fan of remand. Could see the anger. I think I'd rather keep one remand and Street Wraith over that, but Chalice of the Void is fantastic against them. Stops their equipment, apart from with a Stoneforge. Okay, happy to go with that. Take the play again. So we are back for game 2 with a pretty good hand. We've got Cycling, we've got Electro Dominance, Living End, Chalice the Void. I mean, it's about as good as we can hope for. We're going to Scalding Tarn. Probably going to shock and fetch down to 17 to get to cycle a Curator. Okay. Opponents look at the top of their library, deciding whether to fetch or not. Hopefully, does land go. Okay, Sabotage. Great draw, so we get the Chalice on 1, which does stop Sigarda's Aid, even though they can cast it at flash, but it still gets countered by Chalice. So probably getting Battle Score now. Nope, Shadow Spear, so they're just going to try and put it in with Stoneforge and Race. Yeah, we've only got a Curator at the moment. So they are going to be able to put that in. I think it's probably best to try and ambush the... We could keep that Strands in hand, get a 4/4, then hopefully play some Rhinos. I think that is the best thing to do. Wipe the board, try and keep it as clear as possible. If we can draw an As Foretold, another Electro Dominance, and hopefully we'll be able to do something, but it forces them to play Luris. Going to cycle again, start filling the graveyard. Give Curator flying, not interested in that. Brazen Borrow is great here. So we're going to start bouncing the Lurrus. Perfect. Yep, so they're going to start playing stuff into the Chalice so they can play through a living end. I'm sure if the opponent want to play. Interesting. So I'm just gonna flash in this Brazen Borrower. Try and put them on a 2-turn clock if we can find another source of damage. It also means we can hard cast Day 4. Okay, that's fine. I'll trade a Brazen Borrower for an Ink Moth Nexus. Can't get that back with Lurrus. Not sure if they're going to path their own or try to. I'll play it as a red source. We've got enough blue. Means we can Electrodominance and a Braid if we wanted to in the same turn if we drew them. But for the most part it's just hold up, force a negation for any interaction they've got. Okay. I think I want to force this just to stop their loop, because then burying us in card advantage is probably how we lose. And that is fantastic. It means we've got lethal next turn, even through the lifelink of Lurrus. I'm going to say to our opponent, this is all we can do, this is all we've got. And F6. Not sure what gets them out of this. Stoneforge. If they've got Colossus Hammer, they can't play it. So they can. So we can. Okay, it's just makes things a lot easier. So Petty Theft Lurrus. And go on to game 3. I think the inclusion of the Brazen Borrower is definitely justified in this league. Still don't think I want Anger of the Gods. It's a little bit too slow. And that would be good in the grindier situations, but sticking one creature and going into Delver mode does seem to be something we can do against their deck. Okay, send it back. Opponent's taking the play. Rightly so. Oof, we cannot keep this. 2 Asphodel, 2 Brazen Borrower, no Cycler. Yeah, let's mulligan this. It's not much better, but we've got to keep it. We'll pitch the island. Hope our opponent doesn't have an Inquisition, Thoughtseize. Nope, looks like we can play a Springleaf Drum. It's a pretty good sequence. Definitely respecting the Chalice of the Void, unlike last time. No, opponent recognising that Lurrus is key to this matchup. So let's cycle. First shock. Get Winkle Raven into the graveyard. That Braid is fantastic. I'm going to save that for Lurrus. That's how they. That's definitely how they win this matchup. Okay. Go for a Springleaf Drum. Opponent 2 cards in hand. Luckily, didn't have a Colossus Hammer or anything off the Sigarda's Aid. I don't know if they've got a way to recur Lurrus, but I I don't imagine so. Okay, let's cycle a curator. Find nothing, so we'll play the Fiery Islet. We'll crack it on end step. Or if we need to find potentially a blue spell to pitch to force. But can't see what we'd need to do that. Yep, can't do anything about that. So we're going to have to crack the islet now to try and find a blue spell. Otherwise we die to this Inkmoth Nexus. Opponent knows that. Ooh, we got very lucky. Okay. So, force pitching Riverwinder. I'm going to get exceptionally lucky. Oh, we found the Electro Dominance as well. That's probably enough to end the game on the spot. We'll see if the opponent's got another Colossus Hammer. If they do, then that'd be fantastic. Looks like they're digging for it. I think they might have found it. So I'm willing to take one Infect and one from the Stoneforge. Yep, Mem Knight for our opponent. So in our graveyard we currently have Windcaller and a Curator, so that's 8 damage. They're going to get Aluris back. I think I'm interested in just saying go. Same thing again, I don't think we're going to afford to tap out yet. On their end step I'll make some Rhinos. If they animate Inkmoth then I'll definitely Living End. Okay. No blocks there. Another Cigar Day, that's fine. Put them to 15. Start the race. They can still, if we play the Chalice, they can still put in the Colossus Hammer if they draw one with Stoneforge. I think the safest thing that we can do is play an Asphodel, wipe the board, and leave ourselves with a blocker for Inkmoth Nexus. So they'll be able to get through, so I'll give it 11, be able to block 7. Yeah, we're getting the Colossus Hammer. Okay, so Luris is going to be $13. Doesn't get trample, just loses flying. They've got no Shadow Spear. Shocker. That is why you take your time, because that was just me throwing away this this league. Wow, okay, 3-2. What would we have drawn next turn? So would have chumped again. Winkle Raven. So that would have definitely stabilised us. That was some bad beats right there. 3-2, yeah, so I'm going to come back with the wrap up and take that one on the chin. Okay, so back after collecting my thoughts and slowing down after tilting with that huge punt at the end against Hammertime. So in that league we played against Mardu Shadow, which we lost 1-2, Jund, which beat 2-0, Stoneblade 2-0, Prowess 2-0, and then lost 1-2 to Hammertime. The Jund matchup is usually quite a good one, so I'm not surprised with the 2-0 there. Stoneblade and Prowess, the blue-white versions of Prowess, of Stoneblade in particular, are quite difficult matchups. They're very heavy with disruption. They've got Rest in Peace, and a lot of their hate pieces they can tutor up pretty quickly. The Yorion versions in particular. So getting a good win against them that felt pretty good, particularly off the loss against Shadow, which game 1 we were unlucky with the TBR. They had to have it. They had it. Yeah, you know, take the good with the bad. But the 4-1 thrown away to Hammertime, and all in all, the deck felt exceptionally strong and very well positioned against this aggro heavy meta. One thing to talk about was still have not cast a Slum Division in 3 leagues. That's 15 matches and upwards of 40 games still not cast Slum Division. The Riverglade Pathway, again, it could have colour screwed us in the game against Prowess, but luckily we managed to draw a Tana, or a Misty off the top I believe it was. I think this has to be replaced with another fetch land or a Steam Vents. There's just two, being double red but base blue, or having a combo piece that's double red, being base blue, I think this is just a liability to the deck. Apart from that, I'm pretty happy with the configuration of the main board. It's unchanged from the pre-Uro days. It's the sideboard I want to talk about. Because if we just expand that, the Tibalt Crypt's a staple. I don't think we can leave home without them. Chalice showed how good it is in the current meta. Very much like to go up to 4 of that, possibly over an Anger of the Gods. I'm not certain 3 Dragon's Claw is correct. There wasn't really any time, particularly against Blue Red Prowess when we bought it in, where it would have been better than any of the spells that we had in hand, even on turn 2, when we were holding up Forces, we were holding up Remans, the Braids, Brazen Borrowers. I think the Dragon's Claw just wasn't as good. So maybe cutting them, or going down to some other configuration, maybe going to Spell Pierces or some other interaction that's better. The Braid felt solid, 2's about where we want to be. Anger didn't really come up. This is more for stuff like D&T, Elves, the go-wide strategies that we really struggled with in the early days, but D&T in particular. They have Thalia, they have Leonin Arbiter. We've not got many lands. We're running 18, 19 with one of the MDFCs. So I don't think we can cut that. Negate, yes, I think these are the 5 slots that I would go back to the drawing board and see where we go from there. Thing to talk about with Blue-Red Living and how stock the lists currently are. This is the list that I took through a challenge back in November. This was a top 16 finish with the deck, and you can see apart from the inclusion of cryptic commands and 19 lands, it's a very similar configuration. The sideboard is where everything's changed, because you've got Ceremonious Rejection for Tron matchups, but many of the Aethergus and Mystical Disputes for when Uro and Primeval Titan decks were everywhere. So, something to talk about is the next deck is probably going to be either Blue-Red Prowess, another run through with Blue-Red Living End, or Azorius Stoneblade, which is the deck I've taken to one top 8 and on top 32 finish in the past couple of challenges. So then both of this one in particular was was the challenge where 15 of the top 24 decks were Valki. So I'm particularly proud of that finish with the deck. All in all, I'll look forward to the next one. Try and shake off the tilt from screwing up against Hammertime. And yeah, catch you guys next time. If you've got any suggestions on how I can improve, anything you'd like to see, want me to do better, please let me know in the comments. I'm new to this, looking to get better all the time, both in playing, finding decks to play, and also on how to produce content, because it's very new to me. So any advice, good, bad, even if you tell me to start off, that is welcome. Okay guys, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.